Hello, my lovely, intelligent, and ever vivacious students. I want to warmly welcome you all to this class, which is centered around John Kargbo's Let Me Die Alone. In today's class, we shall be taking a holistic and analytic review of the styles, the themes, and the character analysis in the literary work of art. Talking about the styles in any literary work of art, we're talking about the stylistic devices inherent in the work. These stylistic devices definitely are the technical tools employed by the writer in developing the work of art. These stylistic devices are very important because they make the written work of art attractive so that anyone who dares to read the work will actually be attracted to it. The stylistic devices are very numerous, and our playwright in the person of John Kargbo employed some of these devices. For our class today, because of the constraint of time, we will not be able to look at all the numerous styles employed by this prolific playwright. But for today, we shall be looking at some of these styles employed by this creative writer. And for our class today, the first device we shall be taking a look at definitely is foreshadowing. Foreshadowing as a device is employed by the writer in order to give an insight into what's to be expected in the literary work of art. Foreshadow helps to arouse the curiosity and the suspense of any literary work of art if well developed. The elements is evident in the work when we look at how Geneva, a young lad well loved by all and sundry in the literary work, was kidnapped and eventually murdered. These two mysterious characters, in the person of Lamboy and Musa, before Geneva was kidnapped, jokingly talked about how a catastrophic ordeal will be befalling the entire people of Mende. Anyone that listens to them will just think it's just a mercy. But that mere statement, as you look at it, actually gives an insight of what was to eventually take place later in the day. Because that same day, they both kidnapped Geneva and eventually murdered her. So foreshadowing as a device took place in that particular work. Outside foreshadowing, another very important device that was employed by the writer is the element of comic relief. Comic relief as a device helps to cushion or douse an already tensed situation or environment in any literary work of art. Moment of comic relief comes in as employed by the writer in order to create a kind of succor to a very tense and fierce situation in the literary work of art. Okay, for this work, Let Me Die Alone by John Kargbo, the element of comic relief can be seen in the living room of Maya, the traditional monarch of the Mende people. We see a situation where the environment is already rife with tension. The colonial governor intends coming to make a mockery of Maya. Despite all this tense situation, Maya and Yoko are engaged in frivolities, chatting away in reckless abandon, creating a sense of comedy to relieve them of all the day's stress, despite the precarious situation they are about to encounter. So, for comic relief, it usually means a releasing of emotional or other tension resulting from a comic episode interposed in the midst of serious or tragic elements in a drama. Alright, so definitely these will be the two technical devices we'll be looking at as employed by our playwright. We'll now be delving into the thematic preoccupation as we can see in the literary work of art. Definitely, for any well weaved and crafted literary work of art, it must have some thematic engagements. These themes are the inherent messages that the playwright is trying to pass across. The theme can be subjective, it can also be objective, depending on the intent of the writer. For our literary work, Let Me Die Alone, the playwright pulls together most of the concerns that have been at the heart of the modern African drama. How, as a people, we've been dehumanized by the colonial masters. We see elements of neocolonialism where we think the way the white man wants us to think, we act the way the white man wants us to act. All these elements were technically and masterfully crafted by our playwright, John Kargbo. So, we shall be looking at some of these themes, and one of the thematic concerns we'll be taking a look at will be 1. Tradition and unfulfilled demands on womanhood. The African situation is quite pathetic. Pathetic in the sense that the female gender is always subjected to a dehumanizing situation. Women in Africa are seen as mere stooge, subservient to the whims and caprices of the male gender. Women have no rights, they don't have a place in the society. And we can clearly see this situation using one of the major characters in the literary work of art known as Yoko. Though Yoko is a very courageous woman, she has all it takes to lead the people of Mende. But no, she cannot lead them. Why? She is just a woman. Because she is a woman, despite the fact that she has endeared herself into the heart of the husband, that at his demise, she, being one of the 37 wives of Banya, is supposed to take over the leadership of the Mende people. But the people will not hear of it because of her sex. She is a woman. And having seen this situation, Banya decided that for Yoko to be accepted to take over the mantle of leadership, she needs to be inducted into the Poro court, which is supposed to be an exclusive reserve for men. So for her to join the court, she is definitely going to lose her womanhood. So Yoko lost her womanhood in order for the society to see her no longer as a woman, but as a man fit to lead the Mende people. Another film outside the unfair treatment of the female gender that we shall be taking a look at is a film of colonialist arrogance. Like we all know, the colonial engagement we had with our colonial masters was riddled with twists and turns. The African human person was dehumanized to a state that we lost our dignity as a people. And this particular colonialist arrogance played out in John Kargbo's Let Me Die Alone, where we see Governor Rowe publicly flogging the revealed king of the Mende people with all his royalty, his dignity, and his political clout. He was stripped and meant to lie down in front of his people, where he was flogged by one of the dictates of the colonial lord in the person of Governor Samuel Rowe. This is quite dehumanizing because it is not just the dehumanizing of the person of Banya, but the sanctity of the African culture and tradition, which is quite pathetic. So outside the teams, we have lots of other teams to be considered. But you have to go through this work yourself and check out some of these teams. So outside the teams, we shall be taking a quick look at some of the characters as employed by the playwright. Talking about character analysis, definitely when a writer writes his works, he employs the use of characters. These characters are the machineries through which the writer passes his message across to the audience or the reader, as the case may be. The character can be subjective or objective. The character can be a round character, it can be a flat character, depending on the intent of the playwright. So the first character we shall be taking a look at today is the character in the person of Madame Yoko. Madame Yoko is a very strong and a dynamic character. She is one of the 37 wives of Chief Maya. She's a very beautiful, courageous, and very ambitious young woman. Ambitious to the extent that she is ready to sacrifice a woman in order to take a political position of leading the Mende people. She believed so much in herself to the extent that she conquered lots of territories, expanded frontiers, and gathered power for herself. Though her end was quite pathetic because she committed suicide, which is necessitated to the ploy of Governor Rowell trying to take some of her land from her. So for her, she feels she has a dignity to protect. So rather than allow that, she took poison and killed herself. Aside Yoko, another character we shall be considering today is Gbanya. Gbanya is the husband of Yoko and the leader of the Mende people. Gbanya is a pure polygamous African man because he got married to 37 wives. And out of these 37 wives, Yoko was the dearest to him. He led his people, though he does not have a mind of his own. As a result, he was used as a stooge by Governor Rowell, who is the representative of Her Imperial Majesty, the Queen of England, in Mende community. Gbanya died of poisoning in the hands of some of his trusted servants like Lambo and Musa. Though before his death, he handed over the mantle of leadership to his wife, Yoko. Aside Gbanya, we have some other characters like Lamboy, Musa, that's lots of other characters that time will not permit us to consider today. So I want to admonish that you all go get a copy of this very interesting read, Let Me Die Alone, that talks about some salient situation that as a people we've passed through. Is about our history and what defines us as Africans. The work is indeed quite detailed and a well-crafted literary material. So I want to admonish that you take your time, go through this work, and grasp all the inherent messages that the playwright is trying to pass across to you. So my dear honest class, I want to say that you all remain literary conscious and stay blessed. Thank you.